Hello, fellow ink drinkers, and welcome back to the Blind Girls Book Talk podcast. My name is Aria.
And I'm Belle.
And we are two legally blind sisters who love reading and love books. And so what we've done is we've created this show in order to talk about that. We talk about a wide variety of bookish content, and that can range from bad retellings of stories, book to movie adaptation comparisons, buddy reads, recent reads, bookish challenges, really. The list does go on and on. And today, what we're actually going to be talking about is books we did not finish. So, I will admit that nowadays, I do not finish a lot of books. For one reason or another, I don't finish them. Now, before, when I was young, I would push through and I would work to finish those books. But nowadays, I don't push myself anymore because, quite frankly, my philosophy is, why suffer through something you don't like when you can just stop and take the time and to put to something that you do like? So that's my thoughts on DNF. Now, I know Belle has a different philosophy.
There aren't many books that I have not finished. So, I know for me, I can think of 3 off the top of my head that I have not finished. Mm-hmm. But one of which I will, I can't do it right now. I can't.
Well, and that's fair.
And I'll get to that.
And that's fair.
I'll bring that up on why. I didn't want to stop it, but I was really struggling with it, and Arya convinced me to, step away.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to do that. And, okay, granted, the books that I'm going to talk about, I'm not going to talk about every book that I did not finish, because, quite frankly, we would be here forever. I'm talking about ones, there are some books that I just don't gel with, and that's okay. And there has been one that I didn't really gel with that I went back to much later, and I was able to finish it. So, a lot of books I hesitate to put on here because, I might go back to them eventually. But the ones that are on this list are ones that I know for a 100% fact that I'm not going to go back to for one reason or another. So, with that out of the way, there might be some slight spoilers for these books. We're going to try to not get into that territory, but just in case, I do want to warn you. So, the first book that's on my list that I wanted to talk about was A Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. I forget the author of this book, but this book I was seeing everywhere for a little bit. And when I came across it, I was just kind of like, oh, vampires, fun. This will be interesting. I got to the 3rd chapter where they first stumble across a vampire. And I was like, this is a horror book. I don't gel. And it just made me feel really ill and sick. And I was just like, this is not for me. And I closed the book and we sold my copy, and I am not going back to that. It wasn't for me. Yeah, I'm a wimp.
Wimp.
Yeah. Well, what's your first one then?
My first one, it fell under the 3rd book curse. And it is the 3rd book to the From Blood and Ash series. I read the first one, loved it. Read the second one, I got through it. Wasn't my favorite, but I got through it. 3rd one, I got to chapter 10, 15, something like that. It was not long into the book, and I was like, it's falling under the 3rd book curse, man. Mm-hmm. I swear, I have a curse. Any series longer than 3 books, can't do it. Can't do it. You want to know a secret? I'm going to give you 2 books, actually, for this one, so then you can do 2. Escaping Houdini. Never finished it all the way through.
Oh my gosh.
I believe I've skipped multiple parts of that book. It is the 3rd book curse. Love that series. Love Stalking Jack the Ripper. I've talked about it so many times on this podcast. Mm-hmm. Love it. Third book, can't do it. Same with From Blood and Ash. Read pretty much every other book, can't do the third. I believe I spark noted it or something. I looked up the plot of that one just so I understood for the next book. Because I was like, I can't do it, man. I can't do it. I believe I read like the first couple chapters of Escaping Houdini. Couldn't do it. Read the last 5 chapters and I understood what was happening. And I said, good enough. I can go to the next. It's the third book curse. If somebody else has this, please let me know.
Yes.
Because if not, there's just something wrong with me that I can't read a series more than 3 books. Because, like, Clockwork Angel, I got through that. The Clockwork Angel series, got through that perfectly fine. It's 3 books. Anything longer than that, I can't do. Good thing the Inheritance games, 3 books.
Yeah, there's a lot. The trilogies,
I can do trilogies.
The sweet spot.
The only series that I think I've ever fully read the 3rd book in is Harry Potter. That is the only series I've ever done.
Oh, lol.
I can't do it.
That's funny. So for my next one out of 2, it's called Moriarty, the Hound of the D'Urbervilles. I don't know. I have no idea what this is. It's French, I think, maybe. Who knows? So now the reason that this is on my list is because this is actually like the first book that it was like very apparent to me that I was not going to finish it. And I think it's kind of the first one that kind of kicked off my, if I don't like a book, I do not finish it. Now, I read this a long time ago, like probably 2015, 2016, maybe 2017. So like it's been a very long time since I've read this one. But what I remember of it was kind of like a Sherlock Holmes retelling. It was going about Moriarty. And I got halfway through it and it just wasn't what I wanted. Like it wasn't clicking with me. It wasn't like
it ain't it.
It ain't it. And I was just like, you know what? I'm not going to finish this book. And I closed it. And I think it was kind of when I was in my reading slump too. And it just, or maybe this is the book that kicked off that big reading slump. I don't know. But I just remember reading it and just being like, this ain't it. This is not the one. This is not for me. And I did not finish it. And I think that was the first book that I was just like, yeah, I'm just not going to finish books now if I don't like them. So, I felt like it needed to be on this list because it was the one that started it all. Now, for the next one, I know that this one's going to be controversial, and it's Ninth House. Yeah, I didn't get very far into Ninth House. I got into maybe the 3rd chapter, 4th chapter, maybe 5th chapter. I don't know. I was not very far. It wasn't the vibe. It wasn't the one. It just wasn't it. And I was very upset about that, actually, because reading the back of Ninth House, I was like, I'm here for it. Like, this is my kind of thing. Like, this will be cool. And it wasn't it. It wasn't for me. And I gave up. And I'm never going back. And it's sad. We're all very sad about that. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe no one else is sad but me. Because I do feel bad. Like, and I know we're talking about this, but like, I do feel bad with some books that I did not finish. Because, like, I know authors put a lot of work into their writing. Like, I know this. And I feel bad when it's, like, it's me that's the problem. And I'm just like, I want to support you, but, like, I can't because it's just not the vibe and I can't do it.
I have the opposite problem with my next one. It wasn't me. It was the book.
It was the book.
It was the book.
Okay.
And this may be the only time those words were ever spoken on this podcast.
Okay.
The book was the problem. I tried to read Rebel Belle. Forget who the author is. I forget many times who the author is. Yes, because I vented about this book, and I was very upset about this book.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Vent away, because I do remember the vent, but also I think when you were venting, I was doing other stuff, so I was like, uh-huh.
So I was really looking forward to this book. It was another kind of Beauty and the Beast spin-off retelling type deal. It took Beauty and the Beast and kind of Belle broke the curse, and then it took her and the prince and put them into the French Revolution. Mm-hmm. Great concept premise. Loved it. The Belle character got me mad. It got me actually furious. I think it's because in every other retelling, in everywhere, Belle has courage. Like that's her big thing, is her courage, and she's willing to step outside of her comfort zone and her box at times to do, what is right. And she becomes okay with it, and she understands it. It's fine. It's whatever. It is what it is. In this one, so, like, the curse is broken. She marries the prince, but, like, she refuses royal duties. Like, she refuses to be counted as royal. And, like, it goes on through, like, how she's not royal, but she doesn't fit in with the commoners anymore. And, like, it's this whole big thing. And I'm just like, no, the real Belle would have sucked it up and is like, no, I have to deal with this. Especially, like, I got to, like, I'm not sure what chapter I stopped at, but it got to the point where they were breaking away from actual France. Like, they were breaking away from Louis XVI. They were breaking away from him in order to not really be targeted by a lot of the commoners in Paris at the time, who, were calling for Marie Antoinette's head and, all that. So they decided to break off. And so the prince would then become the king of, like, their own little sector. And she, like, refused to take the title of princess or even queen. Like, she refused. And it's like, girl, you need to suck it up.
Yeah.
Like, at that point in time, it's no longer you. And, like, it just got me mad because I'm like, that's not the character.
Right. Yeah. Because, like, I've read ones... the one that comes to my mind is A Ruin of Roses. And I read that series. I really liked that series. And, like, for that one, it was very much like the Belle character was just kind of like, I want to do what's right. And I'm doing all of these things to, like, try to help my kingdom. And, like, I know that he can't, like, ever fall for me because I'm not like him, it's that kind of thing. But she's like, but I'm going to do this for, like, my kingdom. And eventually he's just like, girl, you're it for me. You're the one. Like, I'd be honored for you to be by my side. And eventually she kind of comes around, and then, like, all of a sudden she's like, okay, well, now I'm gonna be queen and I'm taking care of the things. And, like, she's still her, even though she's, like, the queen. So it's kind of like, I don't understand how the author can just be like, yeah, no, like, she's not gonna do any of that.
Yeah, like, that was the whole thing. And, like, he, like, makes her an advisor to, like, his council, like, very high position, and, like, she wants to fight him on that. And I'm like, girl,
yeah,
because, like, it's just, it didn't fit the character. Like, everything was a lot of contradicting.
Yeah, that's really annoying,
especially when you take, like, a well-known character like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're going to take a well-known character, especially a fairy tale character, who has been portrayed many times,
you can switch it up, but you
can switch it up, but, like, you can't almost completely change your personality. You can't do that.
Yeah, that would be very annoying.
It annoyed me so much. And I tried to read this in Disney, too. We were at the Beast Castle in Disney, and I was so happy. I was living my best life trying to read this book. And I started to get annoyed, and I got really sad.
That is sad. That's a sad tale. Well, speaking of sad tales, the next one on my list is, the title of the book is Just One Damned Thing After Another. This book... I think this is another book that I really do feel like the book is the problem here. And here's why. I started listening to this book on Audible. I think I got it on a 2-for-1 sale. And I was super excited because it was kind of like there was time travel aspects. Like, it seemed like it would be a neat book. So I get into it, right? So it's about this lady who gets a job with this group that essentially they have time machines. Their job is to kind of go back in time, observe what's going on, and then come back and like write reports about what's going on to then like, you know, be able to give out to researchers and that sort of thing. So that way they can start making more accurate papers about history. Right. So it talks about like her training process or whatever. And like, it's a whole thing. Eventually she gets kind of to be certified to like be able to go with like her own partner to do time traveling. There's I think he's like the chief engineer there. She kind of has a crush on him. You find out he kind of has a crush on her. And so eventually, like all of these historians have like a specific point in history that they like to study. Hers is like dinosaur times. So her and her partner, they get assigned to like this dinosaur time. And so they're super excited. They go back, and while they're back there, she ends up falling down a cliff because they were attacked by dinosaurs, and her partner ends up being unalived, right? So she ends up saving herself and getting back into the time machine and going back. And then it's kind of like, oh, we found out about that. But then the mechanic, the chief mechanic guy, comes up to her and he's like, so by the way, I'm from the future too. Me and the guy who had this program, we were from the future. We came back to start this program, and somehow you're tied into all of this. But also, like, there are other people from the future who are like trying to do bad things, and your partner was involved with them, and they're the ones who actually unalived him, not the dinosaurs. And they thought you were dead. And like it just became so stupid. I was just like, what the heck is going on? And I was like listening to it, and I was talking to an acquaintance about what was going on in this book. And he was just like, some of that sounds like such bad writing. Like, and I was just like, I mean, you're not wrong, but like, I don't know that I would necessarily count it as that. And I eventually was just like, you know what? I'm done putting myself through this, because like, it wasn't it. You know what I mean? Like, I was so excited for it, and it hardcore failed. Like, hardcore. Mm-hmm. You got another one?
I do. And it's the one I'm going to go back to.
Okay.
But it's currently not finished, and that actually kind of bugs me. And I want to finish it, but like, I know I can't right now.
Uh-huh.
And that is the As Good as Dead, the last book in the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series.
Mm-hmm. I wondered if it was that.
Yeah. So everybody, again, like Stalking Jack the Ripper, if you are a listener of this podcast, you know I love A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I am obsessed with it. However, I have yet finished the last book. Mm-hmm. I actually have yet to get past chapter like 5, actually, or something like that. Like, I have not gotten far in that book at all. The book starts with the main character really struggling from PTSD, and that is something I also struggle with. And the time I was trying to read it was my last semester of college, and that was not a pretty picture in any way, shape, or form. It was just not working. Some of the quotes, like, I have a lot sticky noted in those couple chapters that I have read of just stuff, like, Pip's thoughts that I'm just like, man, that hits. Like, that hits. And, like, some of the stuff I was, like, really scared was just going to send me spiraling again, which I was already spiraling pretty much every day anyway. So, like, I was, like, really upset about it, too. Like, I called Aria, and I'm like, I've been trying to read this book for, like, 3 months, and I can't get past this. And, like, I explained to her, like, kind of, like, the PTSD and stuff, and Ari was just like, yeah, no, put it down, walk away. You can't do that right now.
Yeah, and I mean, there are some books where that is, like, the case, where something just hits too close or too hard,
Yeah,
And
at that point in time, I think it was just hitting too close and too hard. And I think once I get better, I'll be able to go back.
mm-hmm.
But, like, I need to get my brain fixed.
Right. And I mean, like, honestly, so, like, this is nowhere near as serious as that, but I did have a book that was kind of similar, where it was a romance book, and the two main characters are very similar in age to me. And they're both like, oh, I'm single, and, like, my family's kind of upset about the fact that I'm single, and, like, you know, I kind of want to settle down and have a family, and, like, that kind of thing. And, like, there was some more other, like, things to it, but I was just like, that hits too close to home, and I am not reading this anymore. I don't even remember the name because I was just like, absolutely not. I don't need to be attacked.
Yeah.
But anyway, well, I only have one more book that I wanted to talk about on my DNF list. And that is, the book is called Anastasia. It came out recently, relatively recently. I think at the end of 2022, maybe, is when it came out, I want to say. I forget the author. And honestly, we didn't mention authors for most of these because, you know, if you Google the title, you'll probably be able to find it if you really want to. And we're not trying to send any hate to any of the authors in any way. We are mainly talking about the books themselves and our experiences with them. But that being said, so Anastasia is actually a book I did not finish twice.
Oh, you make my heart hurt.
And here's how that happened. So I started it and I got into the first chapter. I didn't get very far into the first chapter, which might have been like a prologue. And I was just like, nope, this isn't the vibes. This isn't what I want right now. And so I stopped reading it. I think that was like around the time it came out. And then a couple months later, I was just like, okay, this might be the vibes now. Because I kept seeing it around Bookstagram and that kind of thing. And so I was like, well, this might be the vibes now. Maybe I can deal with this right now. So I re-downloaded it. And I got a little bit farther. I think I got maybe to like chapter 6, 7, maybe 10. I don't know. I don't know where I got. But then I was scrolling through Bookstagram and I saw a post about somebody and they were just like, oh, this is such a heartbreaking tale and of like all of these things. And I was just like, wait a minute, time out. So I wrote a comment and I was just like, so wait, does this like punch you in the feels? Like, because I wasn't like I went into this book completely blind, essentially. You know, I only the synopsis. So, like, am I going to be punched hardcore in the feels? And the other person was like, yep. And I was like, well, that's an absolute no for me. And I did not finish it, and I'm not going back. Because here's my thing, okay? Books that punch you in the feels, they're needed. I know they're necessary. You need those stories. I feel too darn much all the time that I do not need to be punched in the feels by a book. I do not want to be punched in the feels by the book. I don't need that in my life.
Which is why there are many books that have made Arya cry and only one that has made me tear up slightly.
Correct. I don't like crying when I'm reading. I really don't.
I don't like crying in general, yet you cried 9 times out of 10.
Yep. I don't like emotions. And
you have way too many.
Correct. This is accurate. And so I was just like, I'm not going back because I like romance books where, you know, everything ends up working out in the end. And spicy books where everything just ends up working out all right in the end. I don't need the gut-wrenching,
the very emotional books.
Correct.
There you go.
I don't need that because I feel too much and I read to get away from my feelings.
Well, good that does you.
It helps. It's a good distraction tool.
Yeah, and you still sometimes end up crying.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, honestly, yeah. And like, again, I don't judge anybody or like be like, nah, You know what I mean? Like, if you want to read those very strong emotional stories, support those authors who write them, because I'm sure they go through a lot to write them. And I'm not going to be the one to support them with the reading of them. So someone needs to. All right. Well, I think that about does it for today's episode. We want to thank you for coming along as we talked about our books that we did not finish and the reasoning behind all of it. Of course, if you like this episode, if you like what you've been listening to, please consider sharing the episode with your friends and following the podcast. It would really help us to grow the show, and we would highly appreciate the support. And if you don't want to, hey, you don't have to. And we're not asking you to go get friends if you don't have any that want to read. So, like, you know. And then what are we going to be talking about next time?
It is my birth episode.
Oh, it is your bookish discussion.
It is the birth.
Yes, so next week is Belle's birthday, and so, like how it was with my birthday, we're just going to have a bookish conversation about whatever she wants to talk about. So, we will see you guys next time then. Bye!